group of people that understand the purgatory of that, where you're celebrating, okay, this wasn't 8 years, but it was they're still in a cage for a year, right? Like, so, but when that person comes home, they come to the meeting, and then when it comes to their name, because their name's been on the board every week this whole time, and they've been a name that all of us get to know through someone's loved one, and we hear the stories, and we hear when they call, and we get to know them in the social bio packet. We're praying for them just like they are. And then that person comes in the meeting, and when their name comes up, instead of a pen, we give them an eraser. We call it the eraser of justice, and they erase their name. And it's this really powerful spiritual experience. And for the other families that are just starting the process, they're like, okay, like, I'm gonna be erased the name one day, like if I keep pressing. So these are just some specifics, like, and it's just to give an example of like what are the kind of things that people do. Like, so you go to the meeting, then what's actually happening like in between them, and we sort of see two buckets. Like, one is defense support, and the other one's like understanding who their loved one is. So one is like, they're ensuring evidence is memorialized and communicated to defense attorneys and investigators, videos, pictures, etc. And we're very mindful too, again, of like what the bright red lines are. We don't want anyone to like catch a dissuading a witness case or anything like that. But we're just trying to get stuff to the defense investigator to determine if there's some use of it. Ensuring that, like another thing that came up a lot was, and this was actually Keir that flagged this, was ensuring people know to talk to the defense attorneys and investigators and who not to talk to. Like, and it obviously cuts both ways. Not much more I need to say about that, but sometimes investigators knocking on the door and they just see someone with a card and they're like, nah, I don't want to talk to you, and they could be really helpful. So if someone's mother's kind of putting the word out, there's a defense investigator named so-and-so, and may reach out. It could be helpful. You might want to talk to them. They also point out inconsistencies and untruths in the discovery. Like families and communities know their neighborhoods and communities in a way that is particular, obviously. And so sometimes they're able to, they're going through it and saying, look, this doesn't even happen on this block, or, such and such moved, and, all these kind of things. That is really kind of helpful information. They also help the communication between the legal team and the hub helps the legal team and the family communication, again, be more kind of reciprocated and purposeful. And so what we say all the time too is like that energy is of people wanting to get involved is going to be there, like whether participatory defense hubs exist or not. And so like sometimes defense attorneys will say, well, look, participatory defense sounds like I'm going to have mom calling me, 20 times instead of 10 times a week. And, what we're saying is like, mom's going to be calling you 20 times a week, whether they knew us or not. The difference is when mom calls, you can answer the kind of legal questions, but you could also say, those rhetorical questions about what's wrong with the system or the need to just have some emotional release. You can say, well, and if you want to come to the top meeting on Thursday, there's a support group that can help navigate some of these questions and help you then kind of, strategize your role. And then the call that you do get or the meeting that you do get is kind of prepared and purposeful. So it's not rhetorical questions. It's not abstractions. It's, here are the 3 questions that I have for you, lawyer. We know that there's certain things you can answer. There's certain things that you cannot answer. They'll understand that going into the meeting. And then also, here's what I want to share with you. Here's a social bio packet, or here are our thoughts of, the police accusing my brother of being a gang member. But the time is actually becoming more effective. So I would argue that it actually reduces the time and makes it more meaningful in what the interaction is. And then, we've also offered experts from the community. And so, like the example we give is how do defense attorneys tap into the intelligence of the community? And so, like in California, we have very much like in Knoxville, prosecutors will just greatly enhance the sentencing exposure of a young person of color by saying this crime was done to benefit a gang. And then they'll have a retired police officer that did 2 hours of post-training and saw Lethal Weapon 3 and then, goes on the stand and says, oh, in my vast experience, this young man's a gang member and this crime was done to benefit a gang. And the defense bar didn't have a good response. They might have some cross-examination questions, but they didn't have really a response with weight. But guess who actually knew real gang experts? The community. So we would talk to folks that had been validated by the state prison system as gang members, and came back and are doing like gang prevention work and working with kids. Say, well, you want to know what a real legitimate gang expert thinks about this situation? Here's so and so. And then sometimes they would take the stand. They would write reports. They would also just give background information, like, look, that gang he's talking about hasn't existed here in 10 years. Things like that. And then the social biography packet, or social biography side, is what we told you about, which is, they could secure information like medical information or educational material. They could put it together. They make packets and videos, and they're showing up at court. And the show them at court thing is like no small thing, because it means a lot. You could hear it yesterday with the top people. Just being in court, they felt the power of their presence. We had a case of a gentleman who was shot by the sheriffs, and he went to trial, and as you know how the story goes, he was shot by the sheriffs. It was a parking violation. He was just leaving, not fleeing, but literally just leaving, going less than 5 miles an hour. Sheriff shot him, and from the bullet trajectory, it was from the side and the back of the vehicle. And then they accused him of trying to kill the officer because they said he was trying to use a lethal weapon, which was his car, to run him over. Typical story. And so his public defender actually reached out to us. We didn't know the mom. Said, hey, is this something the community could get involved in? We said, okay, give us mom's number. Mom started coming to the meetings. And we went to the first hearing in preparation of the second trial, and we had seen all the material, and we just couldn't understand, like, how is this man who is the victim in this situation now facing 15 years in prison? And Avi, the public defender, like very casually as he opened the door, said, well, these injustices happen every day in empty courtrooms. Like, kind of like, don't be surprised by this shit. Like, and so, like, for us, it meant we have to fill those courtrooms. Like, and that's something that community organizing is built and made to do. And so if there's, a button you all could press to say, I need people who are at this hearing, there's going to be people that could answer that bell. And Imani actually you have a whole coded system. I thought it was cool. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah. So in Knoxville, we have like our core members and our outer core, but I also have like an email list. And on that list, I have anyone from the community, old grandmas, Uber drivers, anyone. And I send out an email list to say it's a court support. If I need people in court, I'll send that email out, but I have it coded with red, yellow, and green. So if it's a red date, that's like a trial, so we need as many people as possible. If it's green, it's probably going to be reset, so 1 or 2 people will be okay. If it's yellow, it could be like a plea, and that person just needs that kind of support to go through with what they're going to plead to. So anyone asks me, they see a shirt, like, what do you do? When I tell them and they're interested, I'm like, can I put you on my list? Can you come to court? And, you'll have old white people behind this black man, and people are like, what's going on here? And it actually matters. It makes a difference.
So we were gonna, just real quick, then I think we're showing the video. Yeah. So I told you how we have this kind of saying of time saved that we tell people at meetings. And when we wanted to sort of share this with other communities, because we kind of figured, look, if we could do this, anyone can do it, which is kind of the way organizing works. Like, it's a different field of work. In most occupations, you try to show you're exceptional. Like, I'm the best such and such. No one can do what I do. And organizing is the exact opposite. You prove the proficiency by how many other people can do exactly what you do. And so what we did is we started quantifying the numbers so that we could show the general public, I guess you could say, like, hey, look, you could do this too. You could be part of this effort. And so we would look at like what someone's facing. So like if someone's facing 5 years and the charge got dropped, we say that was 5 years of time saved. And so we started totaling it every year. And so the first year we did it, we had 1,862 years of time saved incarceration just in one county. And again, that's organizer math. You know, that wasn't like we asked Stanford to do a study and and quite frankly, public defender offices would dwarf these numbers every month if they told that story. But, you know, you all don't tell that story that often. And so like when the community saw it, they're like, what? There's all these things that we could stop. So we had a party because to the point where the perspective of public defenders changed based on who went to the meetings, but not everyone was going to the meetings. So we held a party. We called it the 1800 party. It wasn't the right name for a party, caused a lot of confusion. But we had a 1800 party where we brought all the families that made up those years, and the attorneys and the social workers and the paralegals and the investigators. And we had this celebration where we had a wall where people took pictures with the numbers. So this is Ramon Vasquez, who was facing a gang-related murder. He was facing life. He got out in 6 months, got a factual finding of innocence from the courts, and his family that would come to the meetings. And it was the first time I seen, and we literally passed the microphone in this kind of celebratory way. And it was the first time I'd seen public defenders celebrated publicly. And celebrated by the people that probably matter the most to them, which is like, it was one thing for them to go to some annual dinner, like, and get a plaque. Like, this was from like why they became a public defender. Like, and so I think it was really invigorating for them. It meant a lot for the families to be able to say, hey, thank you, you know, my son's home because of you. And we brought all the kind of local like civil rights groups and all those things all those groups that are interested in incarceration but not sure what to do, so that way they could sort of see what's possible. I was going to show a 7-minute video. Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
Is this something that you think a public defender's office can facilitate, or who pays you?
It's a really interesting question. Okay, cut the camera. No, just kidding. No, so we don't. Well, so I'll answer the second question first. So, like, Debug's a local nonprofit. So it's a 501c3. So we're writing grants to private foundations, just like everyone else is, and so each hub has their own way of resourcing and sustainability. Right. Yeah. Most hubs are volunteer, I'd say. Like, so Debug, so Debug has a staff that we're doing other stuff, and then we weren't, participatory defense didn't exist on our books for the first like 9 years. And so our staff were there doing other things. Then we would still meet up on Thursday night or Sunday afternoon. It was just something that we did. And then other organizations, they're an organization like say TOP or something that has like brick and mortar and a budget and that kind of thing. Then they figure out the way to make it work for them. Part of it is how they articulate what the work is. Like, we've been able to get some hubs funding through us, and I'm not saying that's a sustainable like rainfall, but by saying this is an approach to get at the larger issues that are breaking the surface waters. So bail reform, prosecutorial accountability. So like, for example, we were able to get 5 city hubs funding, not a lot. Like, I'm talking about for 1 year to have, maybe 4 people get 10 to 20 hours a week. Like, that's what we're talking about. If they don't have a space, maybe they could pay for like food at the meeting, that kind of thing.
You all have another job.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. Yeah. So that's our other plan. Just get, but yeah. So what we've been able to do is like foundations don't have, so most of the organizations are either 501c3s or they're actually like coalitions, like there isn't a 501c3 for the structure of the meeting. But part of the idea is to bake it into whatever natural infrastructure already exists. Well, okay, so leading into that second question. So what I'd say though is the kind of conversations we'd have with Houston groups is you probably can't tell a foundation at this point, maybe a couple years from now, at this point you probably can't say, hey foundation, I want a participatory defense grant. They'll be like, good luck. But they may have a docket on bail reform. They may have a docket on prosecutorial accountability. They may have a docket on how to deal with mass incarceration. And you say, I do this approach, and it's leadership building, it's grassroots. So it's about the organization articulating it into what the foundation world understands. And we've been able to get some hubs, money around those things: leadership development, bail reform, prosecutorial accountability, to name a few. Can a public defender's office host a hub? It hasn't happened. I think there's some issues well beyond resources that would come up. Mainly that healthy tension that we talked about, like what happens when the family needs to come after that defender.
We couldn't even use the equipment in the office because it could have been a conflict of interest. Sorry. In Knoxville, we couldn't even use the equipment because it could have been a conflict of interest. So we couldn't even use the space or anything. I mean, they support us outside of that, but I don't think that PD's office could actually facilitate the meeting.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. So the examples where there's more explicit partnerships, like, is probably Philadelphia. I think.
Yeah, because I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because when we started, she came, like, she was